Hey everyone, Charles here. And first of all, thank you for stopping by my podcast. If this show inspires you, makes you think, or gives you that courage to jump into action, please help by donating to this show. Click the link in the description and donate. Your donation helps us with production and finding great guests moving forward. Thank you and enjoy.
Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another great show. Yes, back here again on Jump Podcast, where I bring you special guests to teach you how to get to that next level. What are you afraid of? What are you waiting for? It's time to jump into action. And my next guest is going to help us to take that next step. Let's go.
You know you should be doing something different, right? Hey, I'm talking to you. Do you believe that you have the gift for greatness or have a special talent, but don't have the courage to take that next step? Always wondering how others made it look so easy? Well, welcome to Jump, the show that will bring you special guests just like you and me. How did they get the courage to jump into greatness? Doing what they love and living the good life. So, get ready to jump with your host, Charles Matthews Jr.
Yes, I'm your host, and I'm bringing you a fantastic guest. Now, just talking to him in the green room before we came into the show, just how he got started. And, you know, I love this backstories. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, Brenden. Are you there?
I am there, Charles. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show because I know with COVID, everybody's running around doing their thing. So I do appreciate you taking the time. But before we get into it, give me some backstory about you. I want people to know who you are, where you're from, a little story. Like, you know, when you were growing up, did you want to be a firefighter, a policeman? What's the story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm born and raised in a city called Montreal up in Canada. And for me, the goal was really simple, you know, be a stand-up comedian. That didn't pan out too well because I lost interest in it very fast when I realized the lifestyle of the people who actually became successful. And basically, I guess the short story was when I was 5 years old, my parents came at me and they said, well, Brenden, you need to learn French, so we're going to send you to a French education system. I kind of looked at them in a daze. I just said, what's French? And they said, well, it's a language you got to learn because you live in the city. So my whole life, I guess in the context of public speaking anyways, not only was I afraid of presentations, I had to give them in a language I didn't even know. So you can imagine me in grade 7 or grade 2 and standing up there and just looking at the crowd and going, bonjour. So let's just say being a speech coach or a YouTuber was the last thing on my mind. But I guess, yeah, things shifted when I went to university and all that stuff.
So when you did go to university, what made you take that chance to do what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my goal is really simple in university. Once again, it wasn't ever to do this YouTube thing. It was just to get a job in corporate America, or I guess Canada in my case. So I went to business school and I learned about these things called case competitions. So think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So other guys my age, or I don't know, playing football or something. I used that same time and energy in presentation. That's what I did competitively for 3 years. And it was from that experience that I realized that I knew a thing or two about coaching people on public speaking. So I started making videos in my mother's basement, and here we are today.
Okay, we got to back up, though. We got to back up. What do you, like, sports for nerds? Why, how do you get sports for nerds? What do you mean?
It's just an easy way of explaining it. So what I mean by that, because no one really knows what a case competition, but the idea is very simple. Think of the same level of intensity that you would have if you want to get drafted into a professional sports team. So if you think about the NBA or the NHL or any sport you can think of, you know, the people who want to get signed are working a lot. Mm-hmm. They're putting a lot of work to get it done. We're
Right.
talking daily practices all the time, every time. Like football is basically the only thing on their mind, sports or whatever the thing is. In my case, it was the same thing about her presentations. So I was presenting to senior executives almost every week. They were my coaches. I was practicing 2 to 3 times a week to prepare for these big competitions. We would go up against 15 other universities, and there was this big academic cup. It was like the Olympics, but for business. And I was the warlord of that program. So I was the one coaching all the new people who would enter this program. The reason why we did this, because I'm probably sure you're wondering, like, who would put themselves through this? This doesn't sound fun at all. So the reason we did it was to get drafted, I guess not in sports teams in this case, but in the top corporate jobs in America. So think of bankers on Wall Street, consultants at big companies. A lot of those people actually do case competitions in university so that they can get those top jobs and be a lot more efficient when they join as employees.
I got you. So then here's a question. Why take that chance? Because a lot of people are like, that's some heavy competition. Aren't you scared to fail?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And that's something that's always been on my mind. What is it about me that's very action biased? And I think the big reason is I just had a big idea on what I didn't want to do. Or didn't want to be. So I think the thing that we have mixed up, Charles, is most people think, what is my purpose? What is my passion? What should I do with my life? But they don't ask themselves the easier question to answer, which is, what do I not want? Right? And what I didn't want was to be poor, right? Simple. I grew up in an impoverished family. My parents were both minimum wage workers. They struggled their whole life just to pay for groceries. And all I knew in my life that was simple and obvious was I didn't want that. I wanted to provide for my parents. I wanted to retire them in their early 50s. I didn't want them to struggle anymore. That's all I wanted. And a goal could be as simple as that. So I picked the career and the path that I knew aligned with my skill set so that I could compete in that thing. If I tried becoming an engineer or a doctor or a dentist, I would have failed miserably because I just didn't have the science grades for it. But I knew at the age of 12, which is kind of bizarre, that I had the best math grades in the school and that I could be the best accountant. So that's what I decided to do. I went to business school and I did just that, and I got the rewards that came with it. And then I switched to become a technology consultant. But the point that I'm driving here is if we focus on what we don't want as a result, that can equally drive us to achieve the result that we want.
Okay, so from my understanding there, most people go, I want to have a big house, I want to get married, I want to have 2 kids, I want this. When everybody's having this big bubble to the right with all those dreams, you have this big bubble to the left going, don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to have failed to do this, I want to make sure I'm good with that. So you kind of reversed it to say, listen, I'm not going to end up in this direction. I'm going to be forward. These are things that don't want to happen to me. So how can I make it to move forward?
You got it. And just to give you a concrete example here, like I knew one of the things that I realized early on was I was a minimalist by trade. Like I'm not some guy who's going to take a lot of, and I make quite, good money now with the practice and everything, but I'm not the kind of person who's going to buy a BMW. I'd rather buy my time back. Because what I didn't want to do was work every single day on something that wasn't going to advance the human race. That's just something that really spoke to me. If I'm only going to live once, I might as well do something that's going to add value to people. So that's why the money that I accumulate or the resources I accumulate, I don't spend it on anything. I keep it as a reserve so I can retire at a younger age. So the key is we need to focus and get razor sharp clear on the things that we want, but also the things that we don't want. Do we see ourselves working for 80 years? Do we want to be a pastor? Do we want to be a plumber? Saying no to those things, though people can totally say yes to those things as well, allows us and gives us empowerment and clarity to figure out what is it we actually do want.
Okay, so then how did you jump into your action? Because, the show is all about jumping to action. And when did you find out, I'm going to take this chance? Because a lot of people are listening to you right now going, okay, that's easy and said and done, but how did he know? When did he want to move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can give you a quick framework on how to think about this. So the first step that I have for everyone is to make a decision, because decisions are just way more important than passions. If you wait for a passion, you're going to wait your whole life. You'll never find one. but decisions are specific, decisions are limited, and there's only a certain amount of moves that you can make on the chessboard before the game's over, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So the idea here, in my opinion, is to ask yourself the first question, which is the following. What does the world need you to do most right now, and why? When I was 12, the answer to that question was not being a YouTuber, because I thought that was for rich kids, not for me. The answer for Brendan in that moment was get a corporate job, make 6 figures, and make sure that your mother doesn't have to work another day at that stupid factory ever again. Simple. That's a decision. That's not a passion. That's not a calling. That's moving me forward. Then the next decision was, okay, I got this great job in corporate. I'm making pretty good money and my life's miserable, but I retired my mom. What's the next move? Okay, let me find a better job. Let me get a job in technology consulting. So I got a job at IBM after a year's worth of work because I didn't want the job before. I made a second decision. And then I made that decision. I love my job. It's great. I still work there. But then the next decision was, what do I do for the human race now? I got what I wanted, but what's the next decision? And then I realized through a series of my own unique experiences in life that I had this opportunity to share public speaking information with the world because nobody else is doing it in my industry at the level that I was. So I started making videos in my mother's basement, and that's what led to the third decision to write MasterTalk and to start that channel. But the point that I'm driving is twofold. One, if I never made the decision to be an accountant or a technology consultant, I wouldn't even have the expertise to even be on the show today. Right? So making that decision moves you forward in a way that you can only connect the dots backwards and not forwards, as Steve Jobs points out. The second part to that conversation that's super important is the following question, which is after that. Who suffers from your inability to take action? So every single day that you wake up and you choose not to do something with your life, whatever that thing is, it could be starting a recipe for cupcakes, I don't know, starting a bakery, it could be sharing something that you care about, like a nonprofit. Every day you decide not to do that, you need to get really clear on who suffers from that. So I'll give you the easy example here to digest this, Charles. So for most people, option A and option B sound something like this. Option A is do the thing, right? You know, the cupcake recipe, the YouTube channel, the podcast, whatever it is.
Of course.
And option B is watch Netflix, right? Simple, right? So A or B.
Okay.
But if you're really clear on who's suffering from not doing the thing, then your option A and option B changes. So in my case, option A is do the thing, post the videos. Option B is watch 16-year-old Julia and every other girl and boy like her in the world suffer with the belief system that they'll never be great speakers. The problem with Julia is Julia's smart, she's intelligent, she's a leader, she wants to be a nonprofit leader, she wants to be a human rights lawyer, but she's scared of public speaking. And she loves YouTube, she watches a bunch of her favorite stars, she types public speaking tips on YouTube, and what does she find? She finds a bunch of old white dudes who are 70 years old, who don't know anything about public speaking, and who line up their pockets. So she looks at those videos, can't relate to them, closes her laptop, and for the rest of her life, her belief system that she'll never be a great speaker will last unless I do something about it. I'm the only speech coach in my early 20s that coaches CEOs. I'm the only person who can do it. So every single day I get lazy and I don't make videos. I punish Julia for it. And that's exactly why I'm very action biased, because I'm always thinking about her. And that's why I write my content 3 years in advance.
But then aren't you, okay, I know you're trying to help, but then the thing is that what everybody always asks me, okay, yeah, we want to jump, Charles. We want to get to the next level, but we're scared to fail Julia. We don't want to do something wrong that she doesn't end up doing greatness on her end.
Right. That's a good point. So the way that I think about this is, in my specific scenario, Julia has no other option. So in the sense of, even if I'm going to fail, even if I'm going to suck, because I believe in that transformation, I have that confidence to say over time I'll get better. So for example, the first 6 months of MasterTalk, I really didn't show up for Julia. Like, I was terrible on camera. That's normal because I was getting started. I was trying to figure it out, but I had the right intentions. And I think that's what matters. And then, of course, over time, my skills on camera skyrocketed. And now I'm able to serve Julia at the right level that I'm satisfied with. But the key message here is you need to ask yourself, how much do you actually believe in what you're trying to do? So if you're a health coach out there and you don't believe in your own transformation, I think that's an internal message you're supposed to have with yourself. Did you write enough books? I mean, not write enough. Did you read enough? Did you start coaching people for free? Can you try something? And by doing those little incremental actions and constantly having conversations with even the one person that you're helping gives you those small incremental wins over time. I mean, I'm the best example of this. Remember, everyone, I started coaching C-level executives at the age of 23. How insecure can you get? Right? That's, I'm standing in a room with 50-year-olds who are looking at me and saying, why is a 12-year-old giving me tips on presenting? I've been working more in my industry than this kid's been alive, right? So you can imagine.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you.
Right? So what gave me the confidence? One is definitely preparation, right? And preparation is important, right? You want to know your craft, right? It's not just some thing you're just going to do randomly. And I have presented, 500 times by the time I was 23. So I knew what I was talking about. But how do we fix that insecurity piece? And the way that I fixed it is what's more important, which isn't a glass of water. It's not breathing before you present. It's having a belief system. What do you actually believe in? It boggles my mind that most people don't stand for anything. And by standing for something that matters, that is what gives you the confidence to do something that matters. So in my case, yeah, sure. I didn't have that much confidence. I was worried, but I believed in a world where every girl like Julia who grows up doesn't have to grow up being a bad speaker. And I realized nobody else was doing it. Being a leader doesn't mean knowing all the answers. It means trying to figure out one that nobody else is trying to figure out. Right?
Okay.
That's what it means. It means taking the first step. Managers can manage my stuff later. That doesn't matter. But being a leader means taking that first step to doing something that matters.
All right. And I love that point because to me, you were real with it. You're like, listen, I'm standing in front of these guys, probably, wondering what's this little kid doing in front of them, looking at me like I don't know what I'm doing, but they're thinking that, and that didn't chase you away.
That didn't, because I cared enough about Julia. Here's the habit, right? I'll make this more actionable for people because I want people to take action, because it boggles my mind that so many people don't. But the idea, the habit that I want you to implement in your life.
Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer. Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
And it's not yoga, it's not meditation, it's not reading. Okay, let's put that aside for 2 seconds. The one habit nobody talks about that you need to implement is ask yourself a hard question about life every single day. And I'll get you started. What are you pretending not to know? If you had all the money in the world, how would you spend your time? If you died tomorrow, what would your funeral speech say about you? And what would you want it to say instead? If you get really clear on the hard stuff, everything else becomes clear. And I realized, Charles, and that's the difference, I guess, between me and everyone else, is not that I'm smarter or more unique or more intelligent or more important. I just asked myself the hard questions at the age of 16 or 17. So I was able to gain the insight on what I wanted my life to look like before I even went through university. And that's what gave me clarity on MasterTalk, because I looked at my options and I just said, okay, it's clearly evident by reading my own funeral speech that the money that I have in my bank account is zero significance to the legacy that I'll bring, given that I'll only live once. So the only thing that matters is to provide a unique gift to the world, though I wasn't sure what that was until I found it, which was MasterTalk when I was 22.
All right, so let's go to your gift. I always tell everybody that everybody has a talent. Everybody has a gift. You just have to find it. When did you know exactly? And I want to, I know we're talking about, university, but how did you know exactly that that's it? This is my talent? Because people have been doing things for years and not realizing they're in the wrong spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I realized so two parts. So the first part was when I realized I was a really good speaker. That was probably in 2017 when I was 20 years old and I was competing in competitions. It just came naturally to me, and I was really obsessive. Like I was practicing, 3 times a week. I was getting feedback from pretty much everyone I knew who were really intense speakers as well. So I realized I was pretty good because relative to everyone else in the program, which was like around 80 people. I was probably in the top 3 of speakers.
Okay.
But the second part, which is the vision for MasterTalk, the reason I realized I was really good, or the way I realized rather, was when I watched my competitors' videos on the platform. I realized how much they weren't really good. Like they weren't putting enough time. They were using too much complex jargon. They didn't seem enthusiastic at all on camera. So I think one way that people can digest this and whether or not they should be doing the thing that they are is what I call, well, actually, I got this from Peter Thiel, and I know I'm dropping a lot of knowledge, so I hope this is making sense to people, but the idea is great ideas always stem from controversial thought. So if there's something in your life that you believe in that most people don't, and you have an accumulation of that, you'll be able to figure out what makes sense. So for instance, if you think about me with public speaking, this thing that I believe in that most people don't think is true is that I think I can teach public speaking to the world through video and without me being there. Because just by looking at my competitors' videos, I realized that they weren't really good. So for you, that could be different. That could be a health video. That could be a fitness video, things that I don't know anything about. Or it could be, like parenting tips. Doesn't really matter what the thing is. The way that you figure out if it's your thing is you always look at competition. So the way that I think about this is competition is clarity. Competition is not a bad thing. Competition tells you if that is the thing that you should be working on. And through analyzing all those people, the more angry you get at your competition for what they're currently doing, or the more frustrated you get, I think you're following the right breadcrumbs, in my opinion.
Okay, so you see that they're doing something that you can do better. You see that
absolutely.
Your gift is there, and this is where you take the chance.
Exactly. So a good way that I analyze this, if it's helps to be a bit more concrete here, I had 10 ideas after I graduated from university on what I should be doing outside of work, like what my side hustle should be. Should I be a career coach? Should I be a public speaking coach? I even had professional gamer there too because I was really good at this video game. But when I look at all of those 10 things, I realized MasterTalk was the one thing that I was absolutely world class at. So that's why I dove into that. For somebody else, it could be, making videos on how to do plumbing indoors on YouTube. Who knows? Everyone's got their own uniqueness, but the key lining thread that I have for everyone, and everyone, in my opinion, that's been successful has done this, is they all ask themselves the hard questions about life extremely early on in life, or whatever point they're at in life. Things that I mentioned. What are you pretending not to know? Things like that. By answering those questions for yourself, you get a lot more clarity on how you want your life to go. And it's a lot easier for you to figure out what your next move is from that.
All right. So let's take this quick break. And when we come back, I want to dive into the masterclass. But here's the one thing I want everybody to understand. And I want you to tell your story. And you can think about it during the break. What's the one thing that you failed at? I want to hear your fail story. Because I feel that everybody has a point in their life where they went, okay, but you learn from that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's okay if you're driving or too busy to take notes. Charles has your parachute packed with all the info you need to jump into success. Check out the links section for all the tools you need to land safe. Now, let's keep falling with Charles and his special guest.
Yes, my special guest today, a good person. Been talking to him for a while, joking behind the green room. We are going to talk about his masterclass. But before we went to break, I asked you, has there ever been a time that you failed that you learned from it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I started MasterTalk, there's a bunch of stuff that I messed up with. But one example I can give you was I had this brilliant idea. I'm being sarcastic here, by the way, on about emailing university professors. So if I emailed every single university professor, and they all knew my videos existed, they would share it to their students because the students always change, and public speaking is important information that they should know about. Let's just say after sending 50,000 emails over
Okay.
6 months, I realized that I was dead wrong. I got so much hate email that I was surprised. A lot of people said it, called me a bunch of names. These are like tenured professors.
Yeah.
Called me a bunch of names. They told me I sucked. They didn't even watch the video sometimes and told me I sucked. It was a really bizarre place to be in. But I think the idea that I want to drive from that is failure definitely happens to everyone. And to be honest, if I emailed 50,000 podcasts instead of 50,000 email professors, I'd probably have a lot more success today than I would have otherwise. So that's probably
But then
a
here's the
big one.
first thing, and I love that story because the couple things you said there, and I want people to understand that you said some of them didn't even watch the video. You're always gonna have haters out there. You're always gonna have people that like, look at this young kid emailing me about what blah 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 blah. It's not about your failing. It's about, people not being on your team or not people not, backing you up. But I think that's phenomenal that they even responded back to you tells me that you had a great idea.
I mean, I'll take that as a compliment for sure, Charles. But I think the idea and the lesson that I got here, and this I got from Seth Godin, who's a famous writer, speaker, and blogger. But what he says essentially is if you have any new idea, most people are going to disagree with it. I mean, when the iPhone first launched in 2007, people thought Steve Jobs was an idiot. They're like, what do you mean having a cell phone without a keypad? Like, is this guy like off? Like, what's wrong with him? And obviously now we know what happened 13 years later.
Yeah.
We can't live without a smartphone. So I think the key is every great idea is always going to have disagreements. Your goal, as Seth Godin argues that I completely agree with, is to find the first 1,000 who love you. And if you can't, even the first 100 who love you, not even the first 1,000, or even the first 10, if I'm being honest. But the key that I really want to drive is if 10 people don't love your product, you probably have a bad idea. If you can't find 10 people who love what you do, like you're on the wrong track. So if you think about me, I thought MasterTalk was a stupid idea for the first 6 months that I was making videos. For the first 6 months, I thought it was a stupid idea. The reason I kept going was because of the 10 people who kept watching every week. One person in particular from my case competition program told me, like back in university, when I was coaching the students, she said, hey, by the way, Brent, I've been watching all your videos. And I just looked at it and I said, why? Like, they're garbage. Like, I'm posted like on my phone. Like, these are stupid videos. I have no budget. My sound's up. She looked at me, she said, yeah, but the content's really, really good. Like, I've never seen anything like this on the platform. When she said it, I honestly was doubtful. I was like, okay, she's just being nice to me. She's just a nice person.
Mm-hmm.
But when the 10th person told me that, I said, hey, wait a minute. I think I'm onto something here. I think there's something here that I need to digest. So then after I had that miserable failure with the university professors, I kind of just said, okay, if I were to pick a niche that is the most open to my ideas, even if I'm not super famous yet, who would be that niche? And I really thought about it, and I realized that the niche that I've spent took me 18 months to figure out was people like you, Charles, podcast hosts. Because podcast host is a double-edged sword in the sense that one side of the sword is, hey, wait a minute, I'm a communicator. Like, I communicate to my public, to the people who need me. So I clearly see the importance of communication. And the other side of the blade is saying, I also get people to come on shows and talk about their ideas. I probably want to share communication to my audience. This makes sense. Double-edged sword, and I've guested on 300 podcasts as of this recording. That's the key. I found the niche. So for you and your ideas, you need to find the niche that makes sense to you and scale that niche.
Right.
And over time, everyone else is going to jump on.
And I like that part where you're saying it's your time, you scale it, you do it, it works for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's one question I have to ask is, people look at numbers to think if they're failing. Like you said to yourself, wait, why are you watching that for? I only got these many people, but people don't realize their value. Like, you're giving that person value that you didn't even know you're giving value to, and you thought your stuff wasn't all that great. how do you know when your value, like your content, your value, what you make in life, what you give back?
That's a great point. I think one thing I'll add here that'll kind of help people think about this in a different lens than how we usually think about it is, let's say you have 50 followers, okay, who are watching you every week. To you, that might sound pretty bad. You're just like, man, I want 500. But if you think about it, 50 people who are actually listening to you every week is like speaking to a room with 50 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. I mean, especially in a podcast, if 10% of those people buy services or consulting, depending on what the show is for, you're making pretty good money from listening to 50 people a week, or from just having a 50-person audience. So the key driver here is not about the number of people you're helping, though that is important in the long term. But in the short term, what's important is if you're helping anybody, right? And if you're helping 5 or 10 people and they absolutely love you, that gives you an indication later on that more people will want your help. And Airbnb, I think, is a great example. I mean, 10 years ago, if I told you, Charles, that you're going to be sleeping in strangers' homes and paying them for it, you'd be like, come on, this guy like whack. That's what people thought about Airbnb. Nobody invested in their company. I think the first 50 investors told them they were stupid. And obviously today, over 1 million people stay every night in an Airbnb. So I think the idea is they started with the first 100 people that loved them, then they scaled to the next 1,000, the next 1,000, and then obviously they went off to the races. So I think the key is really test out your ideas with 10 people. And if all those 10 people say, hey, I think you're onto something because you picked the right 10 people to talk to, then you're onto something.
All right. So here it is. Before we let you go, I'm going to start, it's quick answer hammer time. You ready?
Let's do it.
Before you go on stage, what song are you listening to?
What song am I listening to? Probably some sort of rap. I listen to a lot of Korean rap, but I guess for U.S. people, I guess Drake's pretty good too. I like Justin Bieber also, so it's so hard to pick. What do you mean by Justin Bieber? Sure, let's go with that.
All right. When you go on stage, what's your key move?
Key move. That's interesting. I don't really have a signature, but I guess one thing is probably my introductions are pretty. I like using high vocal projections at the beginning to get people's attention. So when I start, I always do something like this. Everything starts with an idea, and then I pause, and everyone goes, "Whoa, something's about to happen." So that's probably my signature. It's probably the first 3 seconds I open my mouth.
There you go. What's the hidden talent that you have?
I can karaoke in 8 different languages.
Stop it.
Yeah, I speak 3, so I speak English, French, and Tamil fluently, and I can also karaoke in Mandarin, Korean, Japanese, Hindi, and Spanish.
All right, for the next show, we are just doing pure karaoke. You know that, right?
That's why I'm not coming on the next show. Just joking.
All right, now before we go, my friend, one piece of advice to help people jump into that next level, and then before we go, talk about your masterclass. How can we get involved?
Yeah, of course. So I'll just plug and then I'll give the life advice. So if you guys want to check out the YouTube channel, it's MasterTalk in one word. I share all my YouTube videos there on public speaking for free. If you want to reach out to me, the best way of doing that is Instagram at MasterYourTalk. So now that we got that through, let's talk about the life advice. So the life advice that I have for every one of you, especially since you're still listening to me for some reason that I don't understand, is the following quote. Be insane or be the same. If you made it this far, you probably want to make a difference. You probably do want to take action. So the only advice I have is the only way to do that is to learn the art of insanity. Don't you find it odd that a 22-year-old kid started a YouTube channel, not on pranking, not on vlogging, but on communication and public speaking, and then went on to coach CEOs at the age of 23, but also lives in his mother's basement, is literally talking to Charles on a mattress that he sleeps on, doesn't plan on moving out of his mother's house until he's 30, and doesn't own a car? How do any of those decisions make sense to anybody? And that is the point. When all of your decisions only make sense to the only person that matters, which is you, you're probably on the right track.
All right. Thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure.
Listen, take the time, check out his class. It's never too late to jump. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. If you liked the show or have a comment, we would love to hear from you. Join our mailing list, and as always, check out our special deals links below. I hope this has inspired you to look at your life and jump. See you next week.
Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer. Amazon is offering sign-on bonuses up to $1,000, plus get up to $20 an hour for select roles. The best part? We're hiring near you. So start now to take home something greater. New, higher wages with a sign-on bonus, a range of real benefits, and career growth opportunities in a top-rated workplace. So earn more and see how great pay and sign-on bonuses can lead to a greater life for you. Go to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, hope you had a great time listening to the show. If you think I did a great job, please buy me a coffee. I still got a lot of work to do. We would love to hear from you, your feedback, so please click the link and leave us a review. You can help us grow by following us on all social media platforms and sharing this link. Once again, it's time for you to jump. Success is waiting.